Thy name is Edgar Allan Poe. I beseech of thee to come hither and listen to mine biography. Poe, as in Edgar Allan Poe. If thy eyebrows are not on fleek, then consider yourself Edgar Allan Node. When you hear of my name, what cometh to thy brain? I am the king of murders, mystery, and madmen that have been brought back from a den, the grave. I was born January 19th of 1809. I had an older brother who was also a famous poet, and a younger sister who became a penmanship teacher at Richmond Girls' School. When I was 3, my parents left me. Dead they did go, and I was taken in by one who sold tobacco. John Allan and Frances Valentine Allan of Richmond, Virginia, were wealthy tobacco merchants. Would you believe me if my father wanted me to be a businessman? I was not a fan. I had dreamed of being a writer early on because of Lord Byron. At 13, I had written enough poetry to publish my book, but my father would not take a look. By the time 1826 had come about, I attended the University of Virginia. I loved it without a doubt. The University of Virginia, however, did not love me back, and I ended up living in a shack. The classes left me in debt, so to get warm, I had to burn the furniture that I kept. Embarrassed and furious I was. I went to visit my fiancée, Elmira Royster. She was engaged to another man, that of which I gave eternal damn. Back to my father's house I went, but I couldn't take it. Off to pursue my dreams of being a poet, I sent. At 18, I published my first book, Tamerlane, and was beginning to be accustomed to the fame. Another dream of mine was to be in the United States Army. At 20, I found out my mother was dying of tuberculosis, and as a last, wanted to see me. I never got the chance, for they buried her whilst I was traveling to her. I went to enroll at West Point, and while I was there, I stumbled upon a disappointment. My father had remarried without telling me or even inviting me to the ceremony. Wrote to him, did I do? Tell him that I was about to shoot. I was eventually thrown out of West Point, but I wrote another book. I went to Baltimore to see my relatives, and my cousin robbed me, leaving me with nothing. My aunt Marie Clem welcomed me with arms open to her house. Her daughter Virginia wore a short blouse, and thus became the object of my desire. At 27, I married Virginia, who was almost 13, but despite our ages, I loved her and she loved me. Even though we were poor, we had a happy life. Happy until Virginia contracted tuberculosis in 1842. In 1845, I published The Raven, which is one of my most beloved and well-known works, still today. 2 years later, Virginia died at 24. I was devastated, like I couldn't write for months. I went to Massachusetts and met a woman named Nancy Richmond. I had a platonic love for her, but I knew she would never be mine because she was married. But I was okay with that. In fact, she helped me put up some of my best work, like For Annie. I went to Richmond in search of adventure and found out my ex-fiancé was widowed. So naturally, I would try to court her again. But things never work out for exes who get back together. It's like putting water in soap. It'll still work, but not as good. So, anyways, I died 2 years later in 1849 at the age of 40. No one knows why I died except for me, but I wouldn't tell you after all because I was one of mystery. My depressing life is what affected my poetry. It was the 1800s, and this was the time where slavery was very prominent. Either everyone was rich or extremely poor. These were just depressing times. I wanted to find something that was hard-hitting for anyone who read it. Some things are better left off a mystery.